Hello everyone, welcome to another Q&A video from the Reaper blog. I am John. Today I have 5 great questions that came in from you guys. But first I have to thank my patrons. Shout out to my patrons, they help keep this thing going. If you'd like to be a patron, you can go over to patreon.com/thereaperblog and contribute $2, $5, whatever it may be. And you can get access to some exclusive content and help keep this blog going. Shout out to some of my top patrons: Mark Kilborn, Igor Igorkin, Luca Fusey, Brian Hilliard, Gordon McGlattery, The Fern Line, and Glenn Kiefer. Thank you guys so much, you rock. I also want to remind you that over on the website, you'll find Reaper mixing courses, Reaper web remote builder, years worth of articles and tutorials. As well, you can schedule one-on-one time with me. Okay, first question. First question comes from Michael Hawkins. Do you have any favorite game soundtracks? I still love Diablo 2 and Morrowind. 2 games come to mind, or 2 game soundtracks come to mind, and these are games that I play constantly. I've put in so many hours into these games. The first one is Fallout 4, and maybe it's just because I've put in so much time into the game. The opening music just kind of always has an emotional response to me. I'll play it here and probably get demonetized, but... And the other one is No Man's Sky, and it's kind of a unique soundtrack because the soundtrack to the game is sort of based on the music in the game. You hear a lot of the same things, but the way that the music was composed was very different. There's thousands of little bits that are kind of compiled on the fly by the game, and so the soundtrack is creating songs from these loops and things. And the soundtrack was released for the game, I believe. And so I was listening to that a lot, and I still listen to that regularly. 65 Days of Static did that, and they were already one of my favorite bands. So I highly recommend that one. And here's a little clip of that. Another game soundtrack that I listen to pretty regularly is Fury, and it's all like heavy synthwave type music. There's lots of Carpenter Brute and Danger and Toxic Avenger on there, so lots of really cool music there. Next question comes from Omri. Been thinking a lot about mental health lately, since I find myself sitting in front of the computer screen for like 10 hours a day, every day. I wonder if you have some tips about taking breaks from mixing, mastering, producing, and such, how to keep a balance between working and moving once in a while. I think that for most of us, what we do is really addictive and fun, and we forget to take breaks and keep ourselves healthy. I think regular exercise is always good. Obviously, I don't exercise regularly because I've gained like 50 pounds the past few years. So it's really easy to get burnt out doing anything creative. If you're doing the same thing every day, it becomes work. When it comes to making videos, I find it really difficult to make videos when I'm not feeling like making a video, if I'm not inspired by something, or if the weather's bad, or all sorts of little things kind of just make it difficult to do a good job, and I become very critical about my own work. There's lots of stuff that I record and then throw away just because you know, I come off the wrong way and I don't want people to react negatively to it. There's almost a bit of a fear of putting out something that's bad, and for that reason often I just don't record anything that day. You mentioned getting up and moving and stuff like that. I find that going for walks really helps just clear my mind. I think it's a larger problem than just like maybe lack of exercise or just sitting down all the time. I think a lot of it is diet and other things. Okay, I'm not explaining this very well, so let's pause here. Over the past few months, I've been noticing that I'm getting headaches that last several days. I'm getting ringing in my ears along with that. I've had a lot of trouble focusing on producing content or working on client work. A lot of times I just struggle with focus. I also find that I'm very distracted. I will look for things that entertain me rather than just focusing on work, getting it done. So through the month of October, I decided to really just challenge myself and cut out a lot of the things that would be distracting for me. Social media cut it way back. Between 9 and 5, I'm just not there. Can't watch videos throughout the day. All these kinds of things. In the first week, I was feeling a big boost in my focus. I wasn't getting headaches, wasn't having the ringing in my ear. It didn't continue throughout the entire month. So I think there's more things that I need to do. It's not just having too much caffeine causing the ringing in my ears. Today, it's good. I wasn't able to go through the entire month without, breaking my diet. I didn't have any alcohol or sodas throughout the month. Cutting back on that, I think, is just a big benefit for my health anyways. Reducing the amount of coffees that I was drinking both saved money and I think it reduced my headaches. It's still something that I struggle with. I don't have any real answers or long-term strategies. This is just kind of what's working for me now. What has helped a little bit, I think it's just a bigger problem, and it's not just you need to exercise more, you need to cut back on caffeine, you need to vary the sort of work that you're doing, you need to have other hobbies, you need to spend less time on this thing or that thing. I think it's a combination of all those things that will help. It is really difficult to get that into a routine. If you're having trouble with burning out, just take some time away. Find things in your life that are causing you stress and just get rid of them. Spend less time on social media and spend more time on the things that actually benefit you. That's what's helped for me recently, and I hope that helps you as well. Next question comes from Stews. I don't know what soft-takeover means. I answered this online, so I'm just going to read this because it's a lot easier for me. Imagine a knob with physical stops at the ends. The knob sends 0 at the full left and 128 at full right, and every value in between when it's turned. If the knob's at 10 and the control it's linked to is at 50, when you touch the knob it will jump to 11 when turned clockwise. Alright, so MIDI controllers. This one has 16 rotary encoders. They do not have stops at the end. Many MIDI controllers do have knobs that have physical stops. You turn it to the left, it reaches a point where the potentiometer just stops. And those are great for certain things, but when the plug-in parameters don't match the physical position of the knob, you run into an issue where if you turn the knob, then either that plug-in parameter is going to jump to it, or using soft-takeover, the physical knob has to meet the same value as the plug-in before it continues to turn and they move together. So soft-takeover makes sure that the physical control matches the plug-in's position before they move together. When it's off, then as soon as you touch the knob, the parameter in the software is going to jump to that position. Usually that's not what you want. For that reason, I always buy controllers with endless rotary encoders. I don't care that there's no markings on here. Other controllers are different. They'll have like LEDs around them and things like that. And some of the software can send the position to that hardware. In general, Reaper doesn't. But for me, I can just keep my eyes on the plug-in parameter, turn the knob on the keyboard here, And it doesn't matter where this physically is, it's always going to be linked. And if I turn it to the left, the parameter moves to the left by the same amount. So endless rotary encoders, they work in a relative mode, and there's different relative modes, and every controller and software is going to have a different sort of relationship there. But in general, it's pretty simple. For endless rotaries, use relative mode. For controllers that have potentiometers instead of endless rotary encoders, then you would use an absolute mode with soft takeover. I hope that makes sense. The next question comes from Wolf. Thanks for the great videos. Would you be able to explain the compressor tool a bit more? Specifically, what the release, attack, and knee size options mean. So attack and release are transition periods from the compressor not working to working, or from working to not working. Kind of like fading in and out on an audio file where you're fading in the volume. We'll often say something like, slow down the compressor to let the transient through, and you can misinterpret that as it being a delay time. Attack time is not a delay time. It doesn't wait a certain amount of time and then engage the compressor. It's more like a fade. It gradually reaches that amount of compression over that time. But by slowing it down, it's a lower ratio. It's not applying the same amount of gain reduction to that signal, and so the transient pokes through. Let's say you're using a very long attack time, like 1 second. Compression's happening right from the moment that the threshold is passed, but it takes a full second to get up to the full amount of gain reduction. And release is basically doing the same thing, but on the opposite end. As the signal goes below the threshold, it takes a certain amount of time before the compressor stops working. The knee control sets a value below the threshold, so as the signal approaches the threshold value, it's going to get some compression as well. So let's say your threshold is at -12 and your knee size is at 12. Then at -24, that's when you're starting to get compression. And as the signal gets closer, you're getting a little bit more until the full ratio. Every compressor is probably going to work a little bit different here, but let's just generalize and say that at half of the knee size, you're going to get half of the ratio. If you look at this on a graph, you're going to see kind of a curve. Compression graphs usually have a diagonal line at 45 degrees, and then there's a horizontal line where as you set the ratio, instead of kind of a steep point, it's going to kind of curve, so it's more of a curve. I'll just show you a picture of what that looks like. But anyways, the result is that it's a more smooth transition between not compressing and compressing. And it's overall a little bit more compression that you're getting. Because it's more gradual, you can actually apply more to it. Last question comes from Octopus on Fire. Here's the thing that's been bugging me because I can't remember or find how it's done. How do you make the routing window of a track not automatically close when you click elsewhere? Probably a stupid question, but... Well, it's not a stupid question because actually a couple people asked me last week how to do it. I've shown this before in one of the update videos, but I can't even find it myself. So what you do is you go into Preferences, you go to General, then click on that Advanced UI button, and in there you'll find the toggle to keep those windows open. So with that option on, your routing windows, your envelope window, and the snap settings windows will stay open. And that's it for the Q&A. Here's a list of my superfan patrons. These guys really help, and you can become a patron as well at patreon.com/thereaperblog. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Join our Facebook group, Reaper Blog Community, and visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.